That's my keto reading from yesterday, and in today's video I'm going to cover how I follow the LCHF diet, how I intermittent fast, and how I use my ketomojo and my CGM to track my progress. But before all that, welcome back to day 18 of my 30-day video diary of my journey back to a more active, healthier, and more intentional life. So let's get started, and we'll start off with some stats. Now, let's see, I fasted for almost 23 hours yesterday. My readiness was 84 today, and that's just down 1 from 85 yesterday. My sleep, however, went from 87 to 90, so that's really good. I did get over 7 hours of sleep last night. And then for my activity, the day before, my score was 72, and my score for yesterday was 79. So it is on the uptick, so that's really good. And then in terms of what I ate, I actually had some sardines, and I ate it with some pork rinds and avocado and some manchego cheese. That was lunch. It was actually pretty filling. And then for dinner, I wasn't planning on eating dinner, but then after my walk, I decided, I do feel like eating a little bit something. So I ended up eating a little later than normal. So it was around 7 o'clock, but I just had some taco meat, melted some cheese on top of it. And pretty much that was dinner. So really simple yesterday. As far as activity, I ended up taking a walk around my neighborhood, and then I did the same walk in the evening. As far as my blood glucose and my ketones, I already showed you that it was 2.2, which is the highest I've seen it in a really long time. And I'm going to talk about that more in a little bit. And you can see that my blood sugar for most of the day didn't really fluctuate, changed a little bit between 10 to 15 points, nothing major. You can see that my blood sugar dips a little bit at 6:30, and that's around the time that I did go out for a walk. But by dinner time, it does go back up after I ate, and then you can see that it slowly comes back down through the evening. Even though I ate late, it didn't seem to really bother my blood sugar much, which was good. And also it was low carb. What I ate was just taco meat with some cheese. I was worried because sometimes this delayed response, and you'll see like an uptick in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, but it looks like I didn't really have that last night. So that's good because like I said, I did eat later. You'll see these other like deep dips like right around when I'm sleeping. That is likely because I'm actually laying on the sensor itself, so it's not getting an accurate reading. So my overall mood was great, which leads me to what I wanted to talk about today, which are those ketone readings. And I think in large part, I felt good. I had, had mental clarity. I was focused yesterday, and it had a lot to do with having those ketone numbers. There's so many reasons why I eat low carb, healthy fat diet and why I intermittent fast. But the one I want to talk about today is fat burning. Now, my fat stores for myself typically go around my middle. I do have fat stores right here in my cheeks, but I typically have it around my middle. And as you age, it only just gets worse. So many years ago, when I was sort of trying to figure out how do I make sure that my middle doesn't really expand any more than it already was and not have to exercise like crazy amount of hours during the week, I found LCHF. And man, when I learned about it, I was on board and I was willing to try and to see if it works. And for 5 years, I've been following a low carb, healthy fat diet. By not eating so many carbs, you keep your blood sugar lower, and so which keeps my insulin levels low. Now, if you recall, insulin is the fat storing hormone. So if your insulin levels are low, that means you're storing less fat. But if there's not enough carbs to burn for fuel during the day, so because you've not been eating it, your body's going to switch to using fat for fuel. And that's what we want to do. And that's why I do what I do. First, it uses the available fat you eat. So the HF and LCHF, so that healthy fat. If you've eaten and you have fat in that food, it's going to use that fat for fuel. But if you've been fasting, then it's going to use your fat stores. And what are your fat stores? Well, for me, it's all around my middle and my cheeks. And if your body is using fat as fuel enough, then your body produces ketones. And that's where we can measure the amount of ketones in your blood. So that's where the ketomojo comes in. So these are the tools that I've been using to help make sure that I'm on the right track. So I use a ketomojo and I use the CGM. So I can tell throughout the day by using the CGM different things about what's going on with my blood glucose, and you can correlate different things based on the ups and downs of your your blood glucose. Some of the questions that I ask myself throughout the day is, what is my blood glucose like while I'm fasting? What about while I'm eating? After I eat, is there a glucose spike? How long does it hover up in that spike, or does it quickly come down? What is it doing while I'm sleeping? What about if I eat late? What about if I indulge in that sugary treat? How long does it take to recover from indulging? Or, even stress. How does stress affect my blood glucose? So these are all things you can learn about what's going on with what you're eating, what you're doing during the day, and how that's affecting your blood sugar. I try to test my ketones once a day. I do it right before I break my fast so that I know what my fasting ketone numbers are. 0.5 is nutritional ketosis, but the range is 0.5 to 3.0. Now, I am happy with anything above a 0.5. So, and let me tell you, when you have not been in ketosis for a while or been eating a lot of carbs, it does take a while to get to that number. Now, there's also this other indicator called the GKI, the glucose ketone index. And I'll talk about that in another video, but it's also another number that I keep track of. So my number is 2.2. Who the heck cares, right? Well, I care because it tells me a few things. One, in 2 weeks, I've managed to go back to burning fat. So excited about that. And the second is I can see using my CGM that my blood glucose levels are starting to level back down to its normal range before I had surgery. As you recall, when I had surgery, it does go up because of the stress that your body is under while it's in surgery and recovering from it. So I was totally ready for that. But what happened was even a few weeks after surgery, I could still see that my blood glucose was still elevated. Life happened. So that's why we're here 30 days, because I'm figuring, okay, this is how I get back on track to actually eating well and testing and trying to figure out what is happening. And if I can consistently do it, then maybe I can get back on track, and I think we're on our way. So that is why I do this. Now I'm consistently checking it, and I'm also I've started to wear the CGM. I just babbled on there, but anyway. So the second is, now I know that I am going back to becoming more metabolically flexible, and that means that I can switch between carbs and fat burning a little bit easier. Now maybe it's still a little too early to tell, but if you recall days 3, 4, and 5 where I had those tortilla chips and I stopped eating so much carbs in the days that followed. But remember, I was bloated, I was gassy, I was moody, I was in a rut. And that took days for me to finally stop feeling that way. And I actually just looked at, I think, day 6, and God, I look so depressed. I have no energy. And I recall thinking in that video, why am I even doing this? Whose bright idea was it to do 30 days of recording videos? That hangriness, that moodiness is gone. That has a lot to do with these eating low carb, intermittent fasting to ensure my blood sugar is level, and that number, that ketone number, really, it sort of coincides with how I'm feeling in terms of mental clarity and how my mood is just generally in a good mood. So the third is, I just feel great. I already said that, but my pants fit better, my face isn't as puffy, mental clarity, I already said that too. I feel focused, my joints don't hurt, and then I haven't had bloating or gas either. This is all good news, and that's why I care about what those numbers say. Now, the NutriSense CGM and the ketomojo, they give you a lot of data that you can use to adjust what you eat during the day. Basically, you're not guessing about what you should be doing next. It gives you the data that you need and to make an assessment of what can I do best for my body. You certainly can do this without using these tools, but it just takes a little longer and probably a little bit more willpower. What's difficult is that early on in the process, you're not going to see a lot of difference, and your motivation may wane. Having these tools is kind of nice because then you have something else to look at other than oh, my pants don't feel looser yet, or the scale isn't moving. You can see slowly the progress of maybe your ketones are slightly going up day by day, maybe your blood sugar, you can see it leveling off instead of doing these weird high spikes. So these tools are definitely really helpful, and if you're able, I would highly encourage you to try these things. So I do have a code below for NutriSense. Sorry, I'll give you a link to Ketomojo. I don't have a code for that. But I do find that these tools are really helpful day to day to help you make better decisions, especially if you're not sure about what the foods you're eating is doing to your body. So it gives you some data to help you make decisions for yourself. I hope you found that useful and that you like and share this video. and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.